Do you remember this video of me making a sky cape out of blankets? Well, it's one of the most popular videos on my channel, and many of you were asking for a tutorial on how to make it. So here we are! Let me, your lovely Abby Dreamer, show you how to make this fun sky cape. I thrifted these blankets for the sole purpose of making them into a cape, so enjoy them while they're still intact and large. I couldn't find a nice blanket for the inside of the cape, so I decided to grab this blanket and use this bottom layer for the cape's inside. So first things first, I'm going to separate both layers of this blanket. Just take a good old seam ripper and tear apart the two layers. I eventually got bored of the slow seam ripper process and just took a pair of scissors to the blanket. I also cut open the hem of the red blanket to maximize its material. Here are both blankets, torn up and ready to be used. Since the white fabric is smaller than the red one, we're going to use the white fabric to decide how big the cape is going to be. The white is going to be on the inside, but if I use the red fabric to determine the cape's size, then there won't be enough white for the lining. This is purely because of how I make the most out of the material for the most comfy cape. Fold the fabric hamburger style like this, and find where the middle of the fabric is. Measure the fabric's width at the center. You're going to measure and make marks at that length from the center until you reach the sides. I think my measurement here was like 25 inches or something, so as you can see here, I continued measuring that supposed 25 inches until I reached the sides of the blanket. You can connect the marks with a curve that smooths out into the sides. This ends up making the cape circle-esque. I would call it more of an elliptical cape rather than a true circle cape, but this way makes the most out of the fabric. Pro tip, if you're making a sky cape for cosplay, I'd recommend a 3/4 circle cape. It holds its shape nicer compared to a full circle cape like this one is. This cape is a full circle cape to maximize comfort and warmth, and therefore, it will drape more unless you do some fun cosplay things to make it poof out and hold its shape. If you don't mind the droopiness, then go all in with the full circle cape. But again, if you want something a little more game accurate, then go with a 3/4 circle cape. Oh, and don't forget to mark the middle of the fabric. That'll be important for cutting the front slit later. To mark the neck hole of the cape, I did a rough measurement of my neck to make sure it would fit kinda cozily around my neck. And then I popped that circumference measurement into an online calculator thing that told me the radius, and then measured that radius from the center of the fabric. Cut out the fabric along the fun curve you drew, and then cut out the center circle. Don't cut out along the center line just yet, we'll do that later. Now you have an elliptical fabric piece. Drape this ellipse on top of your other piece of fabric so that they're right sides together. You're going to pin these two pieces together with an excessive amount of pins. And don't forget to be on a call with your sister and take a break by playing Genshin Impact together. That's crucial for both your sanity and this project, trust me.
Okay, you can come back.
Let me in. Let me in. Razor sees a Hydro-Oculus.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Razor touch.
The next part is marking where the wedges will be. Start by marking the center on the back side of the cape. This is our point of reference for the rest of the wedges. From that back center point, measure and make a mark 5 inches to the left and 5 inches to the right. You did it! You marked a center back wedge. Now from these marks, continue to mark 10 inches apart until you reach the front. When it comes to the front wedges, I just mark 5 inches from either side of the front center so that the front looks a little more nice and even. Now that you know where the wedges or slits on this cape will be, now you can mark their length. Take a ruler and make 4-inch lines from those small marks that go towards the center of the cape. On the straight edges, you can have those lines be perpendicular to the edge. Do this all the way around the cape, but don't cut those lines yet. I trimmed the larger fabric down before I took it to the sewing machine. The sewing part is relatively straightforward. I sewed with a 1/2-inch seam allowance starting from the center line, going up towards the neck hole and around the neck hole, and then going down the other side of that center line, and then around the rest of the cape. When you come to one of the slit markings, sew around that line. You'll be cutting those slits open later. This part requires a lot of finesse and movement of the whole cape, but you can do it! Just take your time and sew it all nicely. When you come back to the center, don't sew it all the way closed. Leave about 6 inches of space from the start of your sewing and where you finish. We need a gap to turn the cape inside out. Do your snazzy backstitching before pulling the cape off the sewing machine. And you did it! You sewed together a giant ellipse. This is what it should look like after that long sewing process. The next part is cutting all the slits and trimming down to fabric. This is assuming that you cut the larger fabric with some extra seam allowance like I did with the red fabric. Take care cutting all those slits open. And when you do, trim down those corners so that the edges look sharper when we turn the cape inside out. Here's the fun part of cutting the center of the cape to the neck hole. And then cutting the neck hole itself. And now, turn the whole cape inside out. Stick your arm into the hole we left in the cape, grab the inside, and just start pulling it inside out. Take the time to pump out those edges in each individual cape wedge, and make sure those corners are nice and crisp. This is how it should look immediately after you finish turning it inside out. Look at all those pumped out edges. It's honestly kind of funny to look at, but not quite what we're going for with the sky cape look. So, to help those edges be more crisp, we're going to top stitch the cape. That's right, another run through the sewing machine. Pass it through and sew a 1/2 inch-ish from the edge. Take your time working those edges, especially on the wedges and the slits. They're tedious, but I promise it's going to look so good when you're done. Oh, and be sure to close the hole we left earlier with your top stitching. This part's the fun part, painting the stars on the back of the cape. Find and mark the center of the cape so that you know where to line your stars. I did that by doing a good old fold and then getting a bunch of pins along that center line. They also kind of helped mark where I want the stars to go. I pulled out this fun index card template I made for the last cape to help me paint the stars consistently. I'm not going to go into how I made that template in this video since I already made a small tutorial video for that. Go click that button in the corner or the link in the description to watch that video. Well, smack that template in place with some tape and go ham filling it in with some fabric paints. There's probably a better way to do this, but I found that this works for me. After filling in the template, you can remove it and fill in the corners before smacking it down again and painting the next star. Just continue this until all the stars have been painted. Since I currently have 11 stars in the game, I just added the snazzy little third tier lines around the top star. The final step is leaving those beautiful stars to dry. You want to see the final cape? Now you can go be a sky child in the real world. Have some fun running around and enjoying the beautiful sights of God's creation. I wore this cape when my family went leaf peeping the other week, and man, it's an absolute vibe. The red of the cape fit right in with God's masterpiece of an autumn landscape. I'm glad I get to be his child of light in the world that we live in. Now go forth and make your own sky cape. If you use this tutorial to make one, please send me photos of your sky cape. I'd love to see them. You can tag me on Instagram or TikTok or even here on YouTube. It's all the same username, guys. Let's amass a sky child army. I think that would be perfect and really fun. Well, thank you so much for watching this little tutorial. You can leave a like and subscribe for whatever fun project I do next. Thanks for watching.
I love you.